Mrs. Boss, but she said that. Okay, back in the afternoon session, folk, we are going to deal with these appropriately, which will be superb. Charlie, insurance renewal, information only paper, during the process, things are going soft market renewal up.
Yep,
because
absolutely.
we value assets.
And
assets found actually.
the market for asset insurance has softened up in the last few years. There were some pretty significant global events in 2022, 23 that were making it challenging, but those have eased off, touch wood. The ongoing challenge is the liability insurance, and I believe that Aon are very well placed for assisting us to get that. They came up with an offer very rapidly last year when it looked like we may not be able to get it from our previous broker, and I'm very happy with how they'll represent the council in the overseas insurance markets. So generally, I believe that Aon, there's many opportunities there for us to get better deals and better coverage, and generally review what our coverage is for as well. So
I would like, I mean, not a big run, somewhere down the gate. I think probably the new training be useful, and that's another workshop. Well, money.
Absolutely, we've already discussed it. Yeah.
Have Aon on board. See any sign that the liability policies would increase in price?
I believe they probably will, and we've forecasted for that.
Given my declared interest, my liability policy cost me, relatively speaking, for a small man, a lot.
Yeah.
Ours costs us a lot.
Yeah.
For the rate.
My job putting more risk than you, Jen, believe it or not. So there we go. Colin, you got a
Yeah, I just have one question, and thanks for the information report, because I think this is important. We have a chance to view where our future lies in our insurance spectrum. But we did have a joint arrangement with the 3 other councils with Marsh, and obviously with us dropping out of that arrangement, their costs for their insurance their premiums would increase. Would that be a correct assumption or not, Jenna?
Through the chair, not necessarily, no. When we renewed last year, we did ask our neighbours that we would go to market this year.
Yep.
And we then found that through the all of government contract, we could actually rely on the work that had been done by central government to assess the insurance brokers. We did ask if they wanted to join us in transfer. So it doesn't necessarily follow that when one party leaves this kind of shared platform that their insurance premiums will go up, because everything that's charged is specific to your own portfolio.
Okay.
So globally, it shouldn't make too much difference.
So, and if I get back to relationships again, because one of the things that I love is trying to work together. Has this had an impact on their relationship with our 2 neighbouring councils?
We offered to do the work for them. We offered to do all of the work around going to market and working through the transfer.
Yeah.
Both of them declined.
Both declined.
They both did say that they would discuss with us the following year to see what fell out of our renewal.
Ambulance at the bottom of the cliff kind of scenario.
Yeah. It's quite sad.
Oh, sorry, Martin.
No.
Go for it.
I was going to say, I think it does say here in a discussion document, but I think we should invite Aon to speak to us. Essentially, post renewal about what risk strategy options we've got going forward.
Absolutely.
So his point earlier on about, should we insure the GoTown Town Hall, etc. Those sort of things. And obviously, budgetary pressures are always going to be there for us. Will any of those asset reevaluations we're talking about before affect any of this dramatically at all?
So potentially it will in the year after. Depends on what happens with our infrastructure assets for that last year that we should be insuring them for. Land and buildings, it doesn't look like there's going to be an increase. If you think about it, the last time we had them revalued was 2022, peak of the market. So I wouldn't expect to see much of an increase. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Martin. Appreciate it. Wonderful. Yeah. So look, that'll be good. Thank you for the information. Yes,
Charlie.
we're just receiving for this. We move on to the risk report.
Thank you. I'm going to take the report as read. Just to, as a recap, there is also a section in this report around statutory compliance. For oversight for this group, our risk management practices consist of two things. We have an issues register that we monitor at SLT, the strategic leadership team, and that gets reviewed fortnightly. And then, of course, there's the risk register that is brought to this committee, which is made up of both 10 strategic risks currently, 2 operational risks. Obviously, the operational risks were felt of such significance that it needed to come to this table. They're assessed by way of consequence and likelihood of occurring and themed into 3 things, which is financial, reputational, and compliance type risks. Without going into the detail of the report, and of course welcome any questions that might come out of it, I thought it may be useful to cover off the changes or updates to the various risks since the last meeting, which was back in February, you may recall. There are 2, whilst I'll touch on them now, there'll be more detail to follow in the reports further along in the agenda. So for crisis management and response, there's an incoming Wairarapa Emergency Management Office been set up, so that will be expanded on in that health, safety, wellbeing and emergency management report, which is to come. In the respect of emergency management and response, the first emergency response exercise for 2025 was completed in May. And there's the incredible participation from South Wairarapa across all destinations in that space on that particular exercise. And I'm pleased to be able to welcome Simon here today, who is the new emergency management manager as well, who will speak to part of that report. In terms of financial accountability, we've implemented a new rating modelling platform that is now being completed and has been a huge help for Charlie and the team in terms of the preparation for the long-term plan. Government reforms, public consultation was completed on 2 options for future delivery of water services, and hearings were held on the 23rd of April and deliberations on the 8th of May. In respect of our social licence to operate, the development of a comms and engagement strategy is underway at the moment. Really thinking about our various stakeholders and how we engage and communicate with them and how we listen to our community. There's been an additional risk added for legal, and Jess is here today. Moving forward, this will be in the form of a dedicated legal report that will come to this committee and flesh out the specifics. In the meantime, however, in a moment, I'll pass to Jess to just expand on what her initial focus areas have been. In terms of critical asset failure, there's been continued advancements around staff training and development, with a particular focus on the how to manage those things in an emergency. Health, safety and wellbeing, in respect of the work that's been done in this space, there is actually a lot of work being put into the Kitchener Street security improvements, the refurbishment work required because of previous toxic mould reports that have come to council. We're in the process of developing a change plan now because there will be business disruption, but we're looking to minimise that as much as possible. And we've got a team in place that's going to be actively addressing that, particularly over the elections period. We need interim arrangements in place. And finally, in the coming weeks, an additional new risk will be added. So obviously this information will be available at the next staff meeting around water interim transition arrangements, specifically to do with OPEX. On that basis, I'll hand over to Jess briefly, just to outline what the legal work has been done.
Yes.
So good. And just going to next bench. Phase 1, city commission that is legal as a risk to the register, given the day-to-day things that we do as a council. It's a few very of those things, there's some legal risks associated with them. What I've done in the register is essentially outlined what I think the current private art. I have got an existing mitigation, which is essentially requiring with me in the reception of this role. And subsequently further down on the plan, that's passed will essentially help us see us mitigating these risks in the forefront and then continually. One of the most recent ones that we discussed in the previous meeting was obviously the audit in relation to council members in the business space, ensuring that everyone is complying with legal regulatory requirements, which we plan to essentially initiate at the end of the financial year this year and then roll out annually. From SLP, CEO, kind of upper level management around their teams. Other kind of action plan points is essentially just embedding legal in our day-to-day working space. I don't want to be quite the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. We need to kind of be thinking future based rather than what happens if this happens. We can fix those things before we get there, which I think is working well. Be quite often that a main point for many people now if they have issues, which is really good. We see also training and legal updates. Obviously, legislation is always changing, and it's really important that we get this information to the right people in our business, essentially, so they know what's changing or what may be affected in their day-to-day working lives. And we're doing that as well as also looking at doing some trainings just around the regulatory stuff because the argument is also we're changing again as well as like the legislation. Going through another review, which is always nice. Other than those are kind of the main functions that we can look at. It's essentially just embedding them into the business and being kind of the forefront in everyone's mind when they kind of start a project or things that they're looking to do.
Thank you. And just to close off this part before questions, as far as legislative compliance is concerned, you'll see that there don't appear to be any areas of concern. Everything is reported by the various teams as being on track. Amy has been doing a sterling job in terms of LAGOIMA requests. We've got 100% compliance there. Draw particular attention to the fact that despite the fact that a lot of our work has been put into long-term plan at the moment, the finance team and those people who are doing the majority of the project management of the long-term plan are also the ones needing to field questions around LAGOIMAs. So it just, we have to be a little bit mindful of that. And in terms of ombudsman investigations, there's two that have been recorded year from 1 July 24 through to 30 June. There's one privacy breach been reported through the same period, but it does not meet the threshold reporting to the Privacy Commissioner, and that was mentioned at the last staff meeting in February. Right, any questions?
Paul, appreciate that. For two questions, team. I must confess, I did wonder whether the legal one was a strategic risk. I mean,
It's fine, yeah, that's good.
yeah, I mean, what I read in terms of the actions is how do we operationalise and embed, which, by the way, totally support from my side, and I already heard great news about the value of in-house legal support, so that's fine. In terms of is it stopping us? I guess the big question is what objective is that risk that this becomes a strategic risk? Because I mean, once we've embedded, does this go away? Because it'll be tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
Does it go away?
Yes, usually we'll see there's more likely that only the salt will always get off for us. And no matter how much we do, it's almost just mitigating the level in which we expose ourselves to that type of like legal litigation or what have you. So that's ensuring that our bylaws are compliant with legislation, so we don't have to work goes apart. And so we draft policies and things that are in line with legislation and laws. So strategically, it will always, I think, be a risk for us. Operationally, we can try and mitigate that risk to lead us included. Because yeah, we strike anyone can essentially challenge us on the majority of things we do in day-to-day life. So
I think in particular as well, Mr. Chair, it's particularly around the government reform space and interpretation of legislation and policy has been where Jess's time has actually assisted us a great deal, and as that is a strategic risk, that's probably where her efforts have been placed quite a bit. But I take your point. It's there's an awful lot of operational work that that's being managed through Jace.
Well, I don't know, what resonates is your advice to us in the workshop, which is actually, we have got identified here, but actually also relates in the way that you would describe, Jess, closely through the rest of the risks as well. And in fact, with some emphasis on some of those risks, such as government reform. Any other questions for Jess or for Board? Thank you for that. I think this is something that we, again, are just taking on board as receiving. All again, knowing it's your last meeting, thank you that you and Amy and Jess have managed this through the process. Perhaps I'm leaving you, hopefully you're leaving us with a bit of hope that we might honour this work even more in the way we take it going forward.
All that's been done through Amy, and yes, I am sure that you will, and it will just continue to thrive as you mature the systems.
Thrive, yes, we thrive in South Island. Good, thank you. Thanks to that, Paul. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Amy. Can I move to 11.4, which is the people report? Very interesting. Thank you. You and
May.
May, we have met, haven't we? Sorry about that. Nice to meet you again. February seemed a long time away. In your hands, please.
It is the things all of comments tonight in the people risk register. There's not been any significant change to that people risk register. We have seen a slight increase in designations during the period, but however, there's been no trends as such, and people have been leaving for kind of different reasons, but the majority have kind of been connected to relocation or family reasons. Do conduct exit interviews, and all staff have said that they would recommend us as a place to work for their friends and family, and have good experiences working at Southway. If I can bring your attention to the A3 dashboard, which is at the 30th of April. So obviously with some resignations, we've got positions under recruitment at the minute. Generalist type positions and admin positions, we've been receiving the quick to fill, and we're attracting quite a lot of talent. Specialist roles continue to kind of take longer to fill, as you expect. The other point to note is our leave liability actually is overall continues to reduce. I've reported it slightly differently now. It's in weeks rather than days. Yeah, overall, yes, we do still have some people with high leave balances, but overall they are reducing. Any questions?
It's really helpful. And I don't, yes, Martin and then Martin. Just Martin.
Yeah, thanks. It's awkward having two Martins sitting on the same side.
Both particularly good looking as well.
Oh, really, good mate. Anyway, Alison, this is you speak with the chief executive. I'm sure when a vacancy occurs, is it more or less automatically re-advertised, or is there some analysis done to see whether that position is still critical to the organisation?
Yeah, Chair, yes, absolutely. We review the position as some parts, and the manager will review the position, and we'll make those changes if required, and then re-advertise positions.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I guess with this, the attrition and hiring, et cetera, there's a few there in the red lines. Is this going to increase just a reliance on contractors to fill some of these roles as we need, or are we sort of okay with where we're at? We're not too worried.
No, I don't think that increases our reliance on contractors. I think we've made a decision in one area. We would have some contractors, I think the majority, no. I mean, like I said, sort of generalist admin type positions are filling fairly quickly. So yeah, we needed to use.
Okay, cool, thank you.
We have in a couple of areas, but not overall.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Colin.
Yeah, just an observation more than anything is, I must admit, when I started my involvement with council back in about 2009, 2010, I think when I was employed as a coastal ranger, the average staff member had been in the organisation in excess of 10 years. In fact, some of them been there 25 and 30 years. Probably some have been there far too long. That's okay. So obviously the trends change. Now, are we seeing that nationwide, or are we seeing that specific to this region? I know Masterton's had some turnover of staff as well, Carterton obviously. What's changed?
I think the trend is nationwide. People don't typically stay in an organisation for, you know, those 10+ years anymore.
Right.
So typically it is more kind of like the 3-ish years is what kind of.
Yeah, a 3-year, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you know, we just want people to have a great experience whilst they're there and then recommend us as an employer, potential employer for, you know, friends and families and stuff like that. But
It just brings,
actually come back to us.
yeah, it just brings to mind that intellectual knowledge that you build up over a period of time. You don't get that in a 3-year cycle, to be quite honest. You need to be here 5, even 10 years to build up that knowledge base, for instance, that can be passed on in your succession plan for the next person who takes on that role. Yeah, so there are some obviously dangers there, yeah, or some risks there. Yes,
It's succession planning, isn't it, really?
well, it is succession planning. Yeah.
Oh, well, I wonder if for our next meeting, you can see someone move on. I wonder whether mine would be quite good, because we do actually have as a risk people knowledge transfer for critical roles. There's a number of controls in there. It might be quite useful just to get a wee bit of a explanation, you know, clarification about how that knowledge transfer is being managed in reality. I mean, I taking the controls are real, but what does a succession plan look like? What does it actually mean? And given we're a staff complement of 85, and I'm even thinking of Martin's question here, you know, that you say you should do the analysis. It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to, when you're 85 to not think you don't need the double negative. It's easy to, you probably do need that replacement given we're so skinny. So it would be interesting to see if we perhaps have a wee focus around that knowledge transfer of critical roles.
Absolutely.
Because it's going back to your point. Only observation was I was really worried about which age bracket I would have fit. That will remain a secret. Okay.
21, isn't it?
21. Yeah, that's right. I'll swell the young numbers here. I think I'm not. Okay. Thank you for that, Mike. I do appreciate that. And Paul, appreciate that we get this insight. I actually don't take this for granted because I'll be honest, not all chief executives have been this open, and I'm glad that you appreciate that. Moving on to health and safety emergency updates. Emergency management update, please. Hey, you guys, nice to meet you. Your hands go like we are. You might know you can see it roll through reasonably fast. I think I've got a 2 o'clock deadline and before I have no quorum, so if we could keep moving, that'd be great.
I'll just do the key points. First, if I could introduce Simon Taylor, who's the manager for emergency management at the recently established emergency management office, and he will take us through some of the work recovery office and some of the future work at the end of the program. In terms of health and safety, so I'll just cover that first half quickly first. Kind of key points for the first the quarter, there were 6 incidents of health and safety. Reported training has just been provided to some of our regulatory teams in the use of body worn cameras to support their everyday work. And the work is ongoing, as Paul mentioned, to resolve the office's ongoing safety issues with a PM place to start managing this project moving forwards. They're probably the high level key bits. Again, we've been working with WorkSafe for a notifiable event in February.
It's a very highly complex report. I really appreciate it actually trying to read through and assess it all. It's, so thanks for that, guys.
Moving just to emergency management, I'll just cover what South Wye has been up to recently and then pass over to Simon for a broader update across the region. So just worth highlighting on the 1st and 2nd of May, SWD stood up an incident management team due to severe weather across the region. So it's slightly focused on receiving and sharing information with the public and working with the roading team, external contractors to make sure issues were reviewed and reopened. And we worked with Simon and his team at the EOC as part of that. So it was a really good little test for the council just over a couple of days, and that seemed to be received well. Otherwise, the council also has taken part in its biannual exercise across the Wairarapa, where we do a lot emergency response. South Wairarapa, being the morning shift, was responsible for 7 of the 9 key functions. So it really shows that our staff are leading in this space. And we had a good attendance from South Wye and at the EFC as part of that event, and the feedback was positive as part of it as well.
I hand over to Simon for a.
Go ahead. And thank you. So my role at the moment is the program manager for the Wairarapa Recovery Office, and that has been operating for almost 2 years now. So the primary focus of that is following the North Island weather events, cyclones Hale and Gabriel, which hit Wairarapa. Across the 3 councils, funding was provided by central government to open the office and to manage recovery efforts. We also included resilience efforts, and in particular to South Wairarapa, we're able to support the implementation of water tanks into areas within South Wairarapa, including Te Hauriki Marae. We have been part of the container drop. So the containers are those items that we can put into communities as a starter kit to help them should an event mean that they are not connected to the rest of the world for anywhere between 3 and 7 days. And they include tools and other necessary items for that period. The last 2 drops have occurred in Ngawi and Lake Ferry. That happened last week. And there are going to be handover ceremonies on this 7th, so that is 7th of June, to support that with each of the communities, depending on how they want to run it. We'll be handing those items over. So it's really important for us to ensure that communities are well supported, and through the remote team, the resilience officer, they'll be working with the communities on an ongoing basis to help them with the containers, what to do next, the next steps for making more resilient. So that's probably one of the key areas. The recovery office itself will be closing down as of the 30th of June this year. That is based on the funding from central government finishing. The 3 councils have looked at the operation of the recovery office and been heartened with success as dedicated staff are able to focus on particular areas. And we've been pushing to securing a shared emergency management office, which is going to be established. It'll be based close to the EOC in Marston, but we'll be working right across the 3 councils and working again with the councils on professionalising emergency management with staff, and also making sure we can work with the remote team and resilience activities as well. Conscious of the fact you have time issues, so I will finish there and open up for any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you for your sensitivity, Simon. I do feel we catch a bit, and we'll be very keen, I suspect, in subsequent weeks to hear more as well. But thank you for keeping your
yeah, sorry, just another observation. I'm really delighted to see this regional approach to emergency management across our Wairarapa region in particular. So well done, and I'm pleased that that's able to be kept at some level of momentum also. So thanks for that. Yeah.
It's the one area that 3 councils are very keen to.
Yeah. Maybe the only one. Yeah. Yeah. No, great stuff. Thank you.
Like to reinforce our deep dive needs as a piece of regional alignment. We think about one of our strategic risks. It's a success story as in contrast to potentially other areas that we're a bit worried about.
Yep.
For you, Mr. Chair, you may recall from the meeting in February, I did mention as well that one of the first things that will be done through the new office will be to do a Wairarapa-wide risk assessment of our community needs, so we can understand where our pressure points are and then customise our response and even go as far as aligning things like our infrastructure strategies and things to that in due course. So that's the beauty of having this combined effort. Yeah.
Great.
Yes, Mark.
Just wish very briefly to report my thanks to Simon for the leadership he's shown with the recovery.
Yes, fair enough. Yes, good point. There was one question, I wanted to go back to health and safety, and it was a notifiable event. Sorry that I've moved this back. The notifiable event with a contract done. And in effect, it appears as if, as a combined PCBU, it was agreed they do all the primary, you'd expect primary investigation and discussion with WorkSafe. Combined, it's an opposite situation of a combined PCBU. Do we have anything to learn out of that as a PCBU?
It's made aware of, I'll reach out and if there is anything, I'll share.
I'm always conscious that while there will be clearly a contractor that is primary, and obviously the contractor here, it's their staff, it's still a combined PCBU. So I'm always interested, especially that respective roles in terms of ensuring health and safety are well defined, including if it happens in case of an accident. One. Number two, I'm always interested if there is anything in terms of post-event, with anything that we, as one of the combined PCBs, should do. So look, I'll leave it in your discretion. If there's stuff to bring back, can you do it? Otherwise, I'll assume that it's ticket boo. I think I'm not really allowed or not, but I will say that. Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. Simon, again, thank you for your presence today. We'll love to see more of you, clearly. It's critical to our little here, so we look forward to that in future meetings.
Wonderful.
Appreciate your time. Can we move, please, then to the CapEx report, please, project summaries. There you guys. Melissa, welcome back. I think we've met previously. Well, Bruce Robertson, lovely to see you here as well. Evan, one of you is going to take us through this, please.
Thank you, Chair. I won't spend too much time on this, and you would have read the paper. In water, we are tracking well under on capital, as you have mentioned earlier in the meeting. Several large projects, including the Whakaranika pipeline, the Greytown water treatment plant upgrade, and some capital renewals have contributed to that. It is disappointing, but I won't dwell on that, as we know we have a plan to accelerate our capital works by bringing it back under our own control. But that is largely the explanation around the capital situation we face. Roading is on track. There is one line in capital that we're overspent on. We're just investigating options with our partners about how we might carry back money in the 3-year program to smooth that. But I am just taking a bit of a sounding with Custom to make sure that they're happy with what we're proposing. But other than that one line, we're in good shape. And then the remainder of the paper deals with the community operations projects, which I'll leave with Melissa. Thank you.
So as you can see, we are a little under quite a bit under where we forecast we would be at this time of the year. Part of that is due to maturity growing in the team and building skills around better and more realistic forecasting. We're choosing to see this as a positive because it's really highlighted areas that we can improve across the team and work with those to build better projections for the coming years. Part of this is also due to some of our larger budgeted projects, so the Greytown Wheels Park and the Greytown Green Space. With the Wheels Park, obviously with the contractor withdrawal, which has delayed things somewhat, but we're making some progress there. And hope to see some of that budget before the end of the financial year. And then with the green space, obviously that's still in discussions, but does make up quite a significant portion of the underspend for that forecast. And I think everything else is in the rule. Any question?
Martin?
On the Greytown Wheels Park, in particular, where are we at? That has been the bulk of the last few months.
Yes, so we've been tying up some loose ends with the withdrawal of the contractor because that was a joint tender process. So we've just been making sure what we can do with the designs that we had purchased to take forward with the new contractor, and making sure that we're covered so that we don't get into any sticky areas down the line progressing with a new contractor. We should have a new contract signed for a build next week. They have given some indications that they would like to get spades in the ground around July. So we'll keep people updated on it, but it has been progressing in the background. It's just tied up in a lot of the bureaucracy and
Thank Martin. Martin?
Other Martin, my thanks to whoever was responsible for the new asphalt and improvements to the car park. That's not there. That's great. I felt that it was a major blot. With persona, as if councils can have persona.
Yeah.
But my question is with regards to the Kākika Conservatory. Can I have some timelines, please?
Yes, so we have managed to secure, part of the issue with the Kākika Conservatory was that the budget was set without fully understanding the scope of the work available. So it's taking some time to secure the additional funding that was required to support the best option that was identified by the architects. Through our unders and overs exercise, we've been able to find that funding. We're working with the architects now. They have gone back to the contractor of the silo design and confirmed that the budget they gave us is still valid. So months have passed since they gave us that. We've confirmed today that that is. So we're now working with the Archaeological Authority to progress that work. They're confident that we can, if everything runs smoothly and the weather does what it's meant to, that they will have the project completed by the end of the year. So we will keep posted on the.
When you say the project will be completed by the end of the year, you mean the protection will have been established by the end of the year?
Yes, by the calendar year, not financial.
When will somebody inform Mr. Hodder, for example, that work will begin?
We just need to make sure that we have everything lined up in terms of consents and the contract availability, and we'll have to go through a slight light tender process for the design. We have been given a costing and a design based on one contractor, but as to our policies, we'll have to just tender that up as well. So we're hoping that within the next month or so, we'll have a detailed timeline.
So if the best we can hope for is to see a timeline, can I ask when we will see that?
Oh, sorry, within the next month or so.
Just, yeah, I mean, my memory is not as sharp as it used to be, but just take me back a little bit to the scope of work that was required to preserve what we currently had there was basically a structure built over the top to protect the remaining structure. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that the scope of the work?
Yes, the architects, that was a little bit before my time, but I've asked them these questions as well, and they've said that that was discussed at the stakeholder engagement meetings, and the silo design that they have pushed forward with doesn't work out to be much more expensive than the kind of pole shed idea that was floated. It's also more in keeping with the surround, and it does open it and future-proof it for anything that may happen in the future with it, so there doesn't have to be a redesign or a redevelopment if it was turned into a tourist destination or something else was done with it. So they thought that would be the safest and, I guess most true to the surroundings of the area without being, we still wouldn't have had the budget for the whole shed.
I think you're asking councillor if the intent of the objective of the project is essentially to protect the
Current.
the valuable remains underneath.
Right.
And that's definitely still the intent and the scope of it.
Because I just, this is quite a sizable investment over time. And these things have a tendency to perhaps have a little bit of traction at the beginning where you've got enthusiastic parties. Then that enthusiasm dies off and floats away, and we end up by investing a lot of money in something that bears no fruit, I guess, at the end of the day. So I just want to make sure that we've got the model right in the first instance, because it could quite easily be an investment on a structure that's over the top of another structure that's pretty knackered. Excuse me.
Middle of it.
Sorry, there's a tree growing through the middle of it, yeah, and whether it has any tangible value to community as an asset in the future moving forward, unless there's some plan to restore the entire observatory back to its original state.
Those are good questions, but not operational.
No. It's a question.
Questions, but they're ones that probably be considered
Thank you, Stefan.
Some advice from us if that was requested.
Thank you.
I don't sense we make a call on that either.
No,
Adrian.
thanks, Bruce. Just where are we at with the Greytown Green Space?
So that has been in discussion with Councillor Plummer and some other Greytown residents. He's been in contact with us to keep us updated on the progress, but at the moment the instruction is for us to leave that.
The Greytown Green Space Chair has been sitting on our books for many years now and is a constant source of worry for us because it blows our numbers out each time we sit in front of you or in other audiences. And it's something that is currently being led by our political folk. No, I can't see it any closer to resolution than it was when I started with the council a few years ago. So again, it's something that perhaps warrants a further discussion at the committee table, but perhaps in the next training.
Australian is a good solution at this time.
It's not far away, is it? I agree.
Okay, look, thank you for that, for your advice and your update. I'm always conscious that and I don't blame you colleagues for focusing on the community facilities. They are the shape and feel of our communities. Very conscious also of the big projects which are about protecting and building our big assets. So thank you that you've also given us good information on that. And we've also had a look through the finances. So thank you for that. Appreciate again your advice. You're receiving this for information. So thank you for your time, guys. That's really good. Amy, action items. There's one item there. Mr. Gardner, you're on the hook on this one, and it says action. So I don't think there's anything else.
Certainly like actions where I can say that there've been actions. So by way of the report before the meeting today, Mr. Chair, do believe that is now action.
You are relieved.
Thank you. I am relieved.
One day,
Can we move
it was done.
to the resolution to exclude public. One item, I think primarily, which is the minutes. So I'm going to move from the chair, we exclude. Thank you, Martin. Motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Just let us know when the free of. Would be great, thanks. Free, we've got a terrible break.